This is not a normal situation, is it? What a good-looking family. How did you produce those good-looking kids?
Hey, folks, welcome back. This is Colonel Chris Wyatt, retired U.S. Army in central Pennsylvania. And the left is losing its collective mind. They are bat crap crazy over Donald Trump working at a McDonald's. That's right. They're losing their collective minds over Trump serving folks at a McDonald's right here in Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the birthplace of liberty. The Washington Post headline, the Washington Post, of course, is where journalism goes to die, reads, "No, McDonald's didn't confirm Trump's baseless claim about Kamala Harris." CNN writes an entire story condescendingly enlightening us rubes that most McDonald's are franchisees who do not need permission from Mickey D's. Well, duh, CNN. Sort of knew that about 40 years ago when I looked at buying McDonald's stock. The dingy gray lady of dead journalism, the New York Times, not to be outdone, ran an article entitled, "As Trump Served Up McDonald's Fries, Vitriol Boiled Outside." Well, that's interesting. What exactly is that story about? Well, this is what the author said. A few hundred Trump supporters were lining the shoulder of the road and holding a tailgate party in the parking lot of a strip mall right where Philadelphia ends and the suburbs begin. Another group of locals, maybe 50 people, had turned up to protest Trump's visit. People on the two sides spent the sunny autumn afternoon screaming into one another's faces while filming the skirmishes on their iPhones. The parking lot throbbed with hatred, fear, and neighbor's suspicion of neighbor. It became a microcosm of this year's election, vicious and absurd. Yet that's strange. Every video I'm finding posted on Twitter by people from all over Philadelphia shows a distinctly different event. You can see some of that right here. Also, directly below this language in the Dingy Gray Lady's article, piling, steaming dog poo disguised as objective news reporting, is a photo which clearly shows thousands of Trump supporters lining the road, cheerfully bringing him on. Not hundreds, but thousands. And it's just one little stretch of the road. At this point, this yellow journalism needs to be called out, and these fakes criminally charged with something. Courts had a headline that read, "McDonald's is distancing itself from Donald Trump after a high-profile visit to the fryer." MSDNC's angry Rachel Maddow tries to convince us once again that she's a serious journalist with a blog post explaining how Trump was not working at McDonald's because it was closed. Her op-ed is titled, "The Difference Between Work and Trump's Stage McDonald's Theatrics." Listen, that dingbat really misses the point entirely. But then she is MSDNC's big star. An article in the Washington Post devoted to the entire story and then dismisses it as nonsense, which is funny, but I'll get to that. In the Washington Post, Philip Bump writes, Vice President Kamala Harris's mention of having worked at a California McDonald's in the summer of 1983 led directly to an unexpected sight of former President Trump standing in the drive-thru window of a McDonald's in Pennsylvania, pretending to fill orders for pretend customers. Well, Philip Bump, in an effort to prove Trump a liar, that's an interesting initial premise for a journalist, isn't it? Starting from an obvious animus and bias against the person you're writing about. But hey, it's not journalism. It's where journalism goes to die. The Washington Post. Now, that detail is in fact murky, he says. Last month, in an effort to unearth evidence of Harris's employment, Bump tried to contact McDonald's and the owners of the franchises on the island of Alameda, where she worked, or she claims to work. But in 1983 was in the pre-digital data era, and employment records for short-term workers at franchise fast food chains from that period were almost certainly not considered essential documents to retain. I was able to find no evidence of her employment. That's what Bump says. He found no evidence of her employment. Strange, folks. No evidence that she worked at a McDonald's. McDonald's is notorious for employee turnover. Can Mr. Bump not find a single person who worked with her at the Alameda McDonald's in 1983? It's only 41 years ago. Is it that hard to do? You see, folks, Kamala and I share something in common. In the summer of 1983, we were both rising sophomores at university, her at Howard and me at Ohio University. Kamala, an investigative journalist, may have a hard time finding evidence that she worked at Mickey D's that summer, but I have no difficulty finding my employment. I worked part-time at minimum wage, $3.35 an hour, in the dining facility on the South Green. I also sold my plasma that summer and eventually sold off my LP collection to make it through the summer. Things were tight. My Social Security records indicate that I paid into Social Security that summer. Also, I filed a federal tax return as well. Did Kamala not file a tax return? Would it not have her W-2 from McDonald's? My tax return had my W-2 from Ohio University. Interesting that. Funny, these investigative journalists who can't investigate. Now, Trump seems to think that Kamala never worked at McDonald's, and Bump puts this in his article. Trump said, "We have checked with McDonald's, and they say definitively that there is no record of lying Kamala Harris ever having worked there." He wrote that on Sunday afternoon. In other words, she never worked there and has lied about this job for years. For its part, McDonald's sent a message to its employees. The company indicated that no records of Harris's employment exist, but makes clear that this is not an aberration and not a reason to think that she didn't. Now, Philip Burt suggests that there is no reason to think that Harris didn't work at McDonald's in 1983. And as he demonstrated above, every reason to think that Trump's suggestion that she didn't is offered in bad faith and without evidence. But in his story, Burt admits that both Burt and McDonald's admit there's no evidence that she ever worked there. So how is it bad faith on the part of Donald Trump? If she worked there, simply ask the IRS for your tax return. Don't provide that. Now, Burt claims the entire thing is an effort to force Harris to waste time on the question, however trivial or useless is almost certainly part of the point. Perhaps, but if it's trivial and useless, why did Philip Burt even bother to write this story? Who's wasting whose time here, Phil? Folks, ultimately, the Trump and McDonald's event shows Trump for what he is, a funny, caring guy who loves to draw attention to himself. It humanizes Donald Trump. If Donald Trump did this as a stunt to accomplish that, I say good on him. The evil, malicious, lamestream media and the leftists have far too long gotten away with slander, libel, and character assassination and real assassination attempts against the former president, all because he dared to challenge their comfy, cozy, privileged elites world order. A campaign stunt? A publicity stunt? What, like, do they mean Kamala Harris on Air Force Two pretending to be taking calls about Hurricane Helene? Or her stage walk with the North Carolina governor in front of a destroyed home after Hurricane Helene? It's a campaign. Is anyone really stupid enough to believe Harris staged unconstitutional plan for black men? Nobody bought that. Talk about stage and pandering for votes. Neither candidate is talking about serious issues at this stage of the campaign. Harris is all about, but Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Anytime that she's asked a question about anything, Ms. Harris, how was your visit to the gynecologist? Donald Trump. Seriously? President Trump is busy telling stories about Arnold Palmer's junk. I'm a little puzzled about that one, Don. Ultimately, who cares? Kamala Harris is a pathological liar who has no accomplishments in her 60 years. By the way, getting elected is not an accomplishment, folks. Trump has a proven track record of success in business and in leading America. She is annoying, condescending, and racist. Trump has an ego the size of the Nile, but then again, he's earned the right to have an outsized ego. She has not. Her lies about American history, her preference for bailing out looters, the intentional negligence at our southern border, and her inability to string together two sentences without a teleprompter are shocking, to say the least. But I don't care about any of that. And I'm willing to bet that 85 million Americans also don't care. We'll take the proven winner over the wannabe, which is what Kamala Harris is. What say you, folks? Thanks for your time. Be sure to hit the like button and become a subscriber if you're not one already. God bless, and God save America.